It is like the worst thing that has ever happened to me. I would not wish this upon my worst enemy. It is the hardest, most challenging thing I've ever had to deal with. And it is literally like the devil.
We are a pill-popping society, right? We write billions of prescriptions a year for billions of opiate-based drugs. And when you get addicted to an opiate-based prescription drug, your next step is heroin, period.
You think you can move away from it, it's going to follow you no matter how far away you go. You know, you can't run from it because it's something inside you that you need to get right. And you need to get help to get over the heroin because it's just so powerful.
I would steal from my mom from an early age, even before heroin. And that's all I cared about. I didn't think about anything other than drugs.
Things are always going to get really, really bad long before you realize that it's something that needs to be taken care of.
Every night when I was doing the last of my dope or whatever to go to bed, I started to really just hope that I didn't wake up.
If you have 20% of an entire generation of young Americans who are addicted to heroin in 10 years, what does that do to our country? What does that do to the future of our country? The future leaders? What's that get? We're going to wipe out an entire class of people that at some point are going to lead this country. We got to get it under control, and we got to do it fast.
Well, these are just like my ties and spoons and pretty much just a little kit. But I broke the needle off, so I can't use it. I seriously don't know how many times I've done this. I moved into my dealer's house. First night I moved into his house, he shot me up for my first time, which I remember that being like how any addict I've ever talked to describes it. It's like mind-blowing. My whole world was just like, and it was like, I just remember like my whole body felt like there was like blood rushing to it. And like my whole body got really warm and like, it was the craziest feeling I've ever experienced to this day. When me and Paul met each other, like we were sober, like we wanted to be sober. You know, he was Paul and I was Desiree, you know what I mean? Like we were healthy, living people. You know, we had feelings and emotions and we gave a shit about each other, you know? It's tough. Like it's tough going from meeting someone and they're like this awesome person and you like fall in love with them and stuff like that to like seeing the dark side. Like being a drug addict, you have good days and you have bad days. That's kind of how our relationship is.
Heroin. Yeah. That's tight though. Yeah. I hope you do too, dude. Out here, it's like everybody that does any opiate is normally doing heroin. And using a needle is like way more socially accepted out here. I'm tired of losing people, losing friends, losing jobs. Pretty soon I'll lose my girlfriend if I don't keep it together.
Heroin is an absolute epidemic. It is an absolute epidemic. It's probably the #1 drug that we deal with right now and is our biggest problem. The general public doesn't exactly know how much comes into the state. This is a distribution state. That is a fact. Arizona is the biggest, basically, stopping point for drugs. It's the first place they stop.
border security is getting a lot tighter, the technology is getting a lot better on our end, so they're having to come up with ideas and ways to get around that in order to get their product across. It's, you know, I'm sure you heard this before, it's the big game of cat and mouse.
It's becoming such a burgeoning market for the Sinaloa cartel that they've even transitioned some of their marijuana fields in Mexico to poppies. Maricopa County is the distribution hub for the Sinaloa cartel's heroin market in the United States. They have command and control elements that are operating in Maricopa County as we're sitting here right now speaking.
We share the border with Mexico, and we share the border that the Sinaloa cartel likes to use the most, right? Our border here in Arizona is 370 miles or so, and it's relatively unpopulated. The hard drugs are almost universally smuggled in concealed compartments in motor vehicles.
There's such a demand in the U.S. for hard narcotics. I can tell you that year before last, we seized about 125 kilos, and last year that was up to 250 kilos. So you're looking at a 100% increase from one year to the next.
We've seen packages stuffed underneath the dash, inside the actual upholstery, natural voids of vehicles, hidden compartments, what have you.
They'll use every part of this vehicle, the doors, the rocker panels, the quarter panels, the roof, a false roof or a false floor, the seats. They get creative. They really do.
There's the border, man. We're on West International Street, one street that's parallel with the fence. And as you can tell, it's right there. Unfortunately, the people at the port can't stop everything, and we understand that. But they are our first line of defense when it comes down to that. Nogales itself is basically just a corridor, I guess you could call it, a transfer station. It's one big highway. That's all it is. It's one corridor, one road. Easy access to just about anything, incoming and outgoing.
I can't even break it down to you in segments. Like, it was just a repetitive motion. Like, that's what my day consisted of. Going out, pulling a trick, getting money, getting dope. Going out, pulling a trick, getting money, getting dope. And it just went over and over and over again. Like, I lost track of time. I lost track of days. Like, it was just over and over again. And then I'd walk up this whole street. Like, this girl right here is actually a prostitute. She was my friend, actually. Oh, I can't believe I just saw her. My baby's dad and I had already started doing heroin. I got pregnant. We stayed in the hotels. We were just getting high, pretty much. And then when the money started running out, we started trying to do like the whole shoplifting thing again. We had this drug dealer at the time, and so his idea was for me, if I would sleep with him, that he would give us dope, you know? So he kind of pushed that idea on me. And I was just like, whatever, because I mean, I'm a junkie. At that point, I was just chasing the drug.
Yeah, you got your way. Come on.
I knew I didn't want to live using anymore, but I also didn't know how to live sober, and I didn't want to take the steps to get sober, and I didn't want to try and find out. I was afraid it wouldn't work. Well, for me, I had to hit a very bad rock bottom. I overdosed one time, and I remember they put me in the bathtub and they ran cold water on me. And when I came back around, I remember hearing a guy say, well, do we get the shovel or what?
I went on a 6-month run. It was the longest run I ever had. I went from 210 pounds and actually like an athletic looking person to like 130. I looked like I was dying. Wearing long sleeves everywhere. My arms were all tracked up. It was just like things got so bad so quickly. When I was a junior, I tore my hamstring really bad. Dad prescribed me some medication. And that was like my first experience with opiates. They gave me Percocet. One day I go to my pill dealer and he goes, look, man, I got this other stuff. It's called black, and it's a lot cheaper, and it'll get you a lot higher, and you're going to save tons of money. And what my brain told me is like, yay, the answer.
7 months after doing my 5 months in jail, getting out on probation for 3 years, it only took about 2 months to start dabbling in heroin again, and thinking for some reason that I could handle it while on probation. That seems to be the nature of my addiction, and just how I am in general is
do it all the way until it just blows up in your face. The only two outcomes of heroin are prison and death.
Go home. Yes, sir. How's it going? Good. Right. Fine. Sorry, I don't speak out. Yes, sir. Go outside and talk to me real quick.
First time I did heroin, I was 13, and I was at my mom's house. I had completely destroyed all of my relationships with my family. I was in a decent amount of legal trouble. I had no friends. I was homeless. I knew that what I was doing was not what I was supposed to be doing, but I didn't know how to not do that. I lived in a dumpster behind an AMC movie theater, and I woke up like I did every morning, and I was sick, and I didn't have any dope. I kind of came to the realization, like, this is my life.
Okay. Anything you say can be used against you in court of law. You went to the prison cemetery with you before and during the court.
When you start using heroin, your body becomes physically addicted. You cannot just stop using heroin. The mind frame of a heroin user is, I will do whatever it takes to get that next $10, $20 so that I can get another hit so I don't feel sick.
We see it time and time and time again. You lose your self-respect. You lose the ability to get a job. You lose the trust of family members. You lose friends. And you wind up alone.
Somebody that's a heroin addict, somebody that's using drugs, a drug addict, they aren't your normal person when they're high on drugs. They don't care about their family. They don't care about their children. They don't care about their schooling. They don't care about work. They don't care about sleeping. What they care about is, how am I going to get that high?
When it's your child, your loved one, your blood and guts and soul, and you have no control, a drug has overpowered you, it is the most helpless feeling in the world, and you walk around with your stomach upside down every day and night, just hoping that they come home.
I never thought that I would end up like this, and I don't think that I will ever be recovered. I think that I will have to work at staying sober and recovering every day.
I need to be in a sober living around sober people and have some sort of structure, because as of right now, it seems like I need my hand held, or I'll run off and get high or something. That's how it feels.
It's hard. I really do have to just give it my all day by day. I can't really think about what tomorrow is going to be like, or what the next day or next week or next month, because that'll just throw me off. I feel like giving up sometimes, you know, and like they say in AA that like you're supposed to surrender, you know. That's one of the steps, you know. But I feel like if I surrender, if I give up, then like I'm gonna die.
Heroin has been around forever, and the relapse rate has always been sky high. But the reason that they're bringing more in is because more kids are getting addicted to prescription drugs, and when those become cost prohibitive, they have to switch down to heroin.
People started realizing you could get the same high from drugs in your mom or dad's cabinet and stuff, so they started using that.
Users that are addicted to the opiate can't afford to get the pharmaceutical, so they go to heroin, which is a stronger form of an opiate. It's a base chemical for all the prescriptions.
What we have here is a half gram of black tar heroin. They'd heat up the underside of the spoon, turning that into a liquid. You could then take that liquid and place it into a syringe and inject it into your vein.
Heroin has a wide range of victims. It doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your religion, it doesn't matter what you look like, your gender. It's a drug that devastates an entire society.
From my experience in talking with, drug addicts from an undercover standpoint and from an officer standpoint, nobody wants to be a drug addict. They can't help it. they're not happy with themselves, you know.
This is not a surprise problem. It's not a Arizona problem. It's a national problem. It's all across the country. It has inundated the United States.
It's a black hole, and it just consumes lives, whether it be the life of the addict, their family members who are trying to save them, the community that has to support it, the community that gets victimized by it. It's nothing but bad news.
It's weird how the age of the addicts has kind of staggered out. If you were born in 1993, 91, 92, 93, for us, those are big years for the heroin addicts that we encounter.
We'll have young guys. We'll have guys, early 20s, and then they'll admit they use heroin, but they'll almost proudly say they just smoke it. Like, oh, you never inject? No, I would never do that. I would never do that. And then you catch up with them 6 months later, and there's the track marks, to the point where, we take the guys that are 21, 22 years old, track marks in their neck. They're the point of using heroin so much that they're injecting in their, into their neck, and by that point you're pretty gone.
I can't think of a single person that I've arrested, interviewed, encountered, who was a full-blown heroin addict who's proud to be a full-blown heroin addict. They're embarrassed by it. They're disgraced. They want to be fixed and they want to be better. But at the end of the day, it seems that they always fail themselves. They just get spun out of control, and it's incredibly hard to right that ship.
So that's your spoon that they would take it and cook it in. There's your caps. There's another cut straw tutor right there, and then your cleaning pipes right there.
It's very, very hard to beat this addiction, and we do. We see the same faces over and over and over and over again. The courts see them over and over and over again. Probation sees them over and over and over again. And I don't know. Sometimes people are able to shake it and get clean. Other times they don't. They disappear, they go other places, they fall off our grid, or in a lot of cases, they OD and they die.
So we're coming up now. This house on the left, this brown house, second from the end, is where the overdose took place. It's just a typical Clarkdale home, in a nice neighborhood. House has been well maintained. Wrought iron fence in the front. The front room right there as we drove by is where the overdose occurred. Which is a block from our school, playground, children playing.
We got this knock on the door. I looked out and I saw Dale, my ex-husband, and I opened up the door and Dale said, "He's gone." And I said, "Well, yes, he is gone. He is at the recovery home." And he said, "No, he's gone."
This is really overgrown, like I said, because he hasn't been here. He hasn't come back to take care of it.
He was a very, very strong person. And to know that he was allowing a substance to take over him and that he didn't have any control over it, that's what really hurt me.
This was Logan. That was probably 3 months before he passed.
I would have not guessed Logan to be a user of heroin. He didn't look what you would think of a heroin abuser. He didn't appear to be. He was well kept. Hogan appeared to be a very healthy young man.
I'm like, what?
I don't think anyone's ever come right out and told Blake, about the drug use or anything like that. I don't think it's appropriate. But he knows that Tasha died under suspicious circumstances. I had a feeling that something bad was going to happen. And I just never thought it would be Natasha. I was actually at home when the police did finally find me. They told me that Tasha had passed away. They didn't give me the circumstances right away. Asked me a few questions about Tasha and then told me basically how she died, that she had died of a heroin overdose. I don't think she could find the words to express how she felt. I think she just felt so overwhelmed that she couldn't even find a good way to express herself at the time. And so using drugs that weekend was her way of expressing herself.
The healthcare systems are getting overwhelmed with mental health, substance abuse issues throughout the city and state and nationwide. It is becoming more evident.
We are seeing more heroin and narcotic abuse in general. Number one, we're seeing more patients. The volumes in emergency rooms are going up significantly since January 1st. If we came on the scene of somebody who's had an overdose of heroin, they'll be unresponsive, they won't be breathing real well, they're in danger of dying. So they usually, when that happens, they call EMS to come, and EMS starts working on them to make sure that they're breathing.
When we experience a heroin overdose, some of these people are really on the brink of death. I mean, if it was just a few more minutes, their breathing patterns are very sporadic, if almost non-existent.
If we had reports that we had a 24-year-old male suspected heroin overdose, our index of suspicion would obviously lead us to the fact that he's now unconscious due to an overdose of a narcotic like heroin. So we would go up and assess his breathing, open his airway.
The major danger is respiratory depression, so they have trouble breathing, and that's how they can die.
And it's one of those things, if you try it, you're going to get hooked on it. I've seen it. I mean, you just see people, and what's sad is you see it just take over, and someone's quality of life just diminishes over time, and it's you see it.
Alright. Yeah, everything else we need is already there. Oh, okay. There's the...
Well, it's been 30 days. Like today is 30 days, so it's been tough. I mean, it's just like surroundings, people around me that aren't staying sober or whatever have been kind of rough. Trying to get sober has been really hard, just because like if one's in, the other one's not. You know what I mean? If one wants to get sober, the other one kind of want to get sober, but it never works. You know what I mean? Like I was pissed that he relapsed, and like that was, we were supposed to stay sober. You know what I mean? Like that was a plan, but it doesn't always work out how you want it to. He's lost the power of choice in drugs and alcohol, but I think I'm just pissed that he's not doing what he needs to do. I kind of just have to like sit and breathe and just be like, okay, like he's trying. If he wants it bad enough and he does what he needs to do, he'll be okay,
Paul, you're gonna freaking die, dude.
That's definitely not the plan. I mean, so if I go back to the apartment and, I get high, I'll be leaving within the same breath.
Why don't you stay at one of the alumni's houses?
I'm trying to find somewhere to stay for the next 2 nights. Hold on. Here's Jay.
Hey, Devin. Hey, not much. Is he going to be able to stay at your place? All right, you're a good man, and he knows this is his last chance, man. So, all right, buddy. I appreciate you helping him out. You got it, man. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jay.
Paul, you screw this up. Is it?
Yeah.
I love you, brother. I love you too, man.
All right. Thank you.
Just got high. I shot it.
Everyone relapses. I don't know one single heroin user that hasn't relapsed. I actually have this thing on my phone, if I can read it to you. All right, so this says, It says Recovery 101. It will be challenging. It will also be worth it. You will relapse, and that's okay as long as you keep fighting. You may feel alone in your struggle. You will help others who are struggling. Your loved ones may not understand, but you can always explain. You will have good days and bad days, but the bad days will get fewer. Your problems won't magically go away, but they will be manageable. You might not feel different at first, but when you're done, you will be happier, healthier, stronger, and recovered. That's why you have to keep fighting. So that's pretty much that's one of the realest, quotes or whatever, I guess you could say, that I've read thus far.
Key thing to remember about all this is this. Prescription drug abuse is skyrocketing, and it's skyrocketing among young people, right? If mom and dad get 100 Percocets when they go to have knee surgery and they only use 6 of them, they need to get rid of the other 94, right? You got to get rid of them because you're asking for abuse problems there. Kids are going to get what they can get. So we have to educate everybody about what the problems are, and we have to educate and we have to give a way for people to get rid of those excess drugs. It's an entire education process. It's an entire enforcement process.
I think education is extremely important, and people need to be aware of the signs, the symptoms, what it looks like, and how it's being used and how it's being distributed. And most people don't know that it could be in their own neighborhood, and they have absolutely no idea.
We're taking the message to every community that we're involved in throughout the valley without regard for particular economic demographics to make parents aware and to try to educate juveniles as well and teens about the dangers of this, to try to arm them with information beforehand.
As a parent, you have to care. You have to watch what they're doing. You have to make sure that they know that it's important to you. You have to make sure that they know all the things that can happen. We should not be afraid to talk to them about this stuff. What we're talking about is trying to save an entire generation of people here.